Deep dive interviews with music gear inventors, builders, creators, and tone chasers. The Gear Gap podcast with Eric Dahl uncovers the behind the scenes stories of the music gear that inspires us. And now, here's your host, Eric Dahl.
Welcome to the show. I'm so thrilled to have on a man that has done many things and continues to do incredible things. He is the International Business Development and Marketing Director for BOVEDA. I have Guy Balbaert. Guy, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for reaching out.
Well, you know, it's so interesting to me. And first off, we have to talk a little bit, Guy, about your incredible background. You have worked with multiple companies, including Bose and Ernie Ball and all of these companies over the years. But it seems like all of this led you to BOVEDA and the great things that you're doing with this humidification. Tell us a little bit about your earlier careers.
So, that's a long story. The condensed version is my grandfather and my father. They both had normal jobs on top, but their real love was theater. Oh, so they wrote plays and they did that. So I spent most of my youth in theaters, right? And my thing was, so they made me play as well. So I did child acting things, but I was obsessed with lighting, soundboards, and microphones. And that's kind of how I went into the business. This is by the time I was like 22, I was selling mixing consoles in festivals.
That's incredible. Wow.
And that's how we started. It was with a friend of mine. It was a company called Amco. And we basically went to, theaters and festivals and sold them monitors and AKG mics and, all kinds of stuff.
Wow. And so that is what then in turn led you into the other companies that you worked with over the years, such as Bose. And I also have to bring up to where, and I learned some interesting things about you. You're a very prolific, creative person as well as a music gear business person, but an incredible songwriter who has songs published all over the world. And I think, you're like bigger than Elvis also in Vietnam, right?
That's funny.
At least when you landed the plane, you're going to hear your song.
Yes, absolutely. The funny thing about that song, so I wrote it with a French guy called Marc Gavoine, and we wrote this beautiful story, but we found this Vietnamese girl that was living in Belgium. We wrote the song for her, and it absolutely bombed. I mean, it did nothing, right? And I'm like, okay, fine, you know how it is, songwriting, so and then suddenly I have this song on my SoundCloud account.
Okay.
And via Gmail, I'm always getting like, this Vietnamese person is following you. And I'm starting to get messages from Vietnam all the time. I mean, daily.
Wow. And as you live in Belgium.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my SoundCloud account, which is only for people that I'm pitching to. I mean, I don't promote that in any form of way. I'm over 500,000, people listening and following that. And I'm like, something's up here, right? So I go on YouTube and I start looking at this thing and I'm like, holy crap, we're in the millions with this. And then I see people covering it. I see these massive shows like with 25 dancers with the song. And I'm like, I had no clue. I have absolutely no clue.
And so this was going on, but your song was being taken and run with in Vietnam. And once again, you've had hits all over the world, but you had no idea that this was even going, like nobody reached out and said, hey, Guy, your song's doing pretty well.
Zero. I had zero idea. And then slowly but surely, I reached out to Mark. One of his guys has a connection with Vietnam. So we started talking with people. And then slowly but surely, it kind of became apparent that this is like that thing's been in the charts like for, I don't know what, 60 weeks, and it just keeps going. Even now, I was in Vietnam. This is like 2.5 weeks ago, something like that, because I was speaking with that airline company about, the song being played when it lands, and these people, you can see them look at me in some enamored fashion, like, how did you catch the soul of our country? And I'm like, I I don't know.
But, it's so funny to me, and this is not lost on me, and I hope it is not you either, Guy, that was your original goal as a songwriter was to be this, a rock star, a huge songwriter, and now besides your career in music gear, you've accomplished that also.
You know what, Eric? The thing has always been, oh, my thing has always been kind of travel and connection with other nationalities and stuff. So the vision I had in my mind was like, yeah, I'm gonna be this rock star. I'm gonna tour all over the world, right? And now when I look at all the songs that got published, in some form or way, I got into every country and every region, and I look at this and I go like, okay, it didn't come out like you asked, but it never does well.
It did. I mean, you really, and I mean, I know you know this, but you've achieved your dream. I mean, you're living the dream right now to be able to do that, to have your song played, on an airline coming in, and then you've got this whole other like regular career with music gear we're going to be talking about with BOVEDA. It's like going, "That- that's good stuff, Guy."
Yeah, it is quite surprising when I look at it from a distance. Every now and then, I manage to do that. It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, we have to also tie in. I want to make mention too that one of our mutual friends, Jessica Lynn, is out on international tour with with a number of songs that you and she co-wrote also.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been writing for 10 years now.
You're like everywhere. You're like the secret sauce guy. It's like Doris, like going, people may not know, your name, but it's like they know your songs.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we got to talk about this. So you started working with BOVEDA and the humidification systems about 8 years ago. The company launched in 1997. And at that time, you and I were talking before we started doing the interview to where there was really nothing like this, to where everything was using water. And it used to make me cringe. You and I were talking, Guy, to where
Like these little silica gel things.
right, yeah, yeah, the little silica, but also like with the water tubes, remember sponges, and with the I remember the ones that even the sponges and the sound holes, and to me, as a guitar player and a collector like yourself, it's like I always worry. It's like going, is this going to damage my guitar? Is this water going to leak in there? And obviously they did, but the evolution of BOVEDA and even with the humidipacks, that came out first, but the whole company was originally launched to protect cigars.
Yeah. One of the guys that actually invented the product was a humidor guy, right? I mean, oh, I said, you got a problem and you know how to fix it, and okay, let's go with that. So that was, I mean, for the majority of the initial setup, I mean, they ran for this for years before they moved to anything else.
Well, and once again, like what you and I were talking as well, the education it's still educating people in the two-way humidification control system instead of a one-way. And that's really where
My job.
right. But and so at what point did the company certainly they made, I mean, I knew the name from cigars and cigar shops. before they even got into instruments. Like what year, when did somebody say, cigars and guitars and instruments need the same humidity and they both go bad if they don't have humidity? When did they make that leap, Guy?
Oh, when guitar builders knocked on the door.
Mm. So the builders were the ones who go,
Yep.
wait a minute, if you're taking care of cigars, you can also take care of my, handcrafted custom acoustic guitar.
Yeah. I mean builders, and oh man, it's amazing how many factories I've seen up to now, right? So every time I go anywhere, the first thing they bring me to is the room with all the wood. That's the first thing, and you kind of see their eyes go like twinkle, twinkle, right?
Mhm.
So they're all about that. And then, every guitar manufacturer has a controlled environment. So they 45 to 55, sometimes 60, depending on where you are.
Mhm.
That's how they build a guitar. It is controlled. You got to manipulate the wood, and that seems to be, that's the point where you got to get it.
And yet I'm so envious because that's my goal. I know a lot of people want to go to like baseball parks and all these different things. It's like, I want to go to every guitar factory, because there's just something about it to me being a player and collector like yourself that it's like, I love seeing the craftsmen and women creating these instruments with the wood and, with the necks and with everything, just making the magic that, that you and I and the world makes music with. And so for you to be just invited in to every guitar factory going, come on in. Here, here's what we're working at. And you and I know too on this guy to where some of this wood, like the koa and the rosewood and different things like this. And, there's so many different types of incredible wood that guitars are being made out of, but they all need humidity. I was talking with a young man at a guitar shop one time here in Nashville. And, of course, we always joke, Guy, to where we all smell the sound hole of a guitar. It's just a guitar player thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right, wrong, or indifferent, we do it. And, and so he was playing it and everything, and I was talking to the young man, and I said, "Well, you gotta make sure and keep this guitar humidified." And he's like, "Why is that?" I said, "Because the guitar doesn't know it's not a tree anymore." They're cut down, they're carved, they're shaped, they're molded, all these things, and then they're braced, and then they have the finishes put on them, Guy, and then they're sent off, and it's like, oh, it's a guitar now. It's like going, still thinks it's a tree.
Yeah. I always make the analogy with a door. So I live in a place. This is called Bruges, right? So it's a medieval town in Belgium, close to the sea. And my door is made out of wood, right? In the winter, I always have to, that's trouble opening it up and closing it. And in the summer, it just, open, close. It's wood. It's alive. And that's kind of the thing that people don't make that connection in their head. They just look at it as an inanimate object that is just solid.
Right.
It is like,
No, they see it as the object that it is now. And I want you to, if you could, Guy, for our listeners and viewers, can you kind of explain the one-way humidification system and then the two-way that BOVEDA does? Can you explain both those?
yeah. Let me reframe that a little bit into, so where does a guitar want to be? Like it literally wants to be in that situation where it was made in that controlled room, right? So the trick is not adding water or taking it away. The trick is stabilize it. So how do you get to a situation? Because there's nothing wrong with having something that just only pushes water in a dry environment. The thing is, it doesn't stop. It just keeps giving water, and the other way around. It just keeps taking water. both cases don't end up really good for your guitar. So what you're trying to do is create a stable environment where that thing just locks in. And that's what BOVEDA does. I mean, it's nifty. It's a mix of fairly simple ingredients and then a little fairy dust. But I mean, for guitars, it's 49%. For cigars, it's something else. For cannabis, it's something else. So it basically, we have to change the formula according to, what suits best. For us, it's stability and making sure that neck stays nice. There's no fret sprout. I mean, you don't have to tune it every 15 minutes. That's the thing. I mean, in worst case scenario, of course, I mean, cracks, but you're already mistreating that instrument quite.
Well, and what was interesting to me as well that you had brought up, because having lived in dry climates, such as on the West Coast in Las Vegas, to where you would frequently have, humidity levels outside of 8 to 9%. Which is you and I know very bad for guitars. And I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw it destroy a lot of acoustic instruments to where when people did not humidify them correctly. But you also brought up that I did not think of was the part about over humidification, to where some of these countries, in international places that you travel, you're having these discussions to where the instruments are getting too much humidification. They're getting too wet.
Correct. Yeah. And that's which is kind of funny because, I mean, I go to Asia quite often. The funny thing about Asian players is they don't even acknowledge it. So because humidity is part of their life, right? It is always there.
Right.
So they don't make the connection in any formal way. It's just, this is the reality. This is it, right? They don't compute in their head that there's a solution for this.
Well, and
So
please go ahead.
No. So that's kind of my thing where I just go like, this is a problem, and you can solve it.
Well, and to me, talking about BOVEDA, to where, as you mentioned, with the different things for cigars, different mix for guitars and other instruments, and different mix for cannabis. But also, I think one of the genius things to me was the packaging, to where the package fits so easily into an instrument case.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
and once again, it does no damage to the case or the guitar. How long is the BOVEDA pack good for, guy? How long, if I put one in a guitar case right now?
So back to the guitar building. So he made this fantastic thing. He tunes it. He puts it in the case, and his only concern, or her only concern,
Mhm.
is where will that thing go to? And if they open the case, will it be in that same shape as how it left? We kind of did. I mean, everybody tests it. Everybody who ships with us kind of goes through their own testing phase. And we can guarantee 90 days, even if the case is opened up in the most extreme environment that's out there. And they are there. I mean, there's a lot of places where, customs will halt the shipment, and it's gonna be in an open warehouse next to the sea.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so there you have, back to what you had brought up, Guy, to where you have the other opposite. You have way too much humidity, can also damage an instrument.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So for us, again, it's about the stability, and because we don't know where stuff goes, we just go like, we can guarantee for 90 days that you're 100% secure. Will it work longer in certain places? Definitely. But 90 days is kind of our measuring stick here.
Well, and not to give away trade secrets on it, Guy, but how many instrument companies do you work with currently providing this two-way humidification?
What, not ship with us?
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, stumped you on that one.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. Let's say plus 20 of the big ones.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we have a lot of small builders, the violin builders. I mean, they make 20 instruments a year. I mean, it's a builder, right? So when I start doing that, the number goes really high. Yeah.
well, I thought it was interesting as well, Guy, because when I was at the NAMM show this year, I could not connect with you because you were out working the floor like I do, meeting people, because these are all the companies that you work with that you provide the humidification for. Like you said, people don't think about it, but with violins and with ukuleles and with all of these,
Clarinets. I just went to a clarinet factory in Beijing. I mean, astounding the amount of work. I've got immense respect for clarinets.
just no idea. I'll be honest with you. I had no idea that you would have been shooting by it.
And then be to make an instrument. It must be one of the hardest.
Oh my gosh. I never even thought about that, because all I knew was like in band in high school where, you had the clarinet section.
Yeah.
And they were not part of the brass section because I was trombone. Yeah. But it's like, I bet you have to humidify those as well.
Yeah, of course you do. Because when they crack, they are very hard to repair.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, for guitars, the funny thing is every now and then somebody of the repair shop goes like, okay, a cracked guitar comes in. The first thing we do, and this was, who told us Taylor guitars, right? At one point they say, when that stuff comes in and it's a severe crack, we basically said, you're going to lose your guitar for a month or 6 weeks, right? Which is not good, but it is what it is. So what they do is they just open the case of the bag. They throw in like 3 to 4 packs, close it up, and don't touch it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then they repair.
That is incredible. I mean, and I was going to bring that up and you already launched in. What are some of the coolest testimonials that you have about BOVEDA with the two-way humidification? I mean, besides that incredible one from Taylor Guitars, what are some of the ones that have kind of blown your mind like that?
I mean, those are pretty spectacular because they come up with these stories where they say, like, it was a crack. We opened it up after 2.5 weeks, and that crack was almost as good as gone. The wood just, kind of went together, and then the repair was superficial. I mean, all of them, and they don't buy us because it's BOVEDA or this technology. They're basically thinking of their guitar. That's where the emotion lies. So for them, we're like buying insurance, really.
It really is, and I think about, and like you and I were talking to, and certainly your trips here through Nashville, Tennessee, to where so many touring musicians, and songwriters tour with very expensive guitars. I mean, even, like a James Taylor that is out on the road with Olsons that are no longer even made. And you've got, so many incredible instruments handcrafted. And like you said, I mean, it's with the humidification, you're not trying to add water or take away water. You're trying to reach like stasis, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying. We've got these big packs, which that are, in all honesty, not a commercial product for us. They're like 320 gram ones. So we talk with these people. So they call us and they go like, we got a case and there's like 10 guitars in there, right? Oh, and then we go like, okay, take these big packs and just throw them in. And then close the case and travel like that. And that seems to do the trick. I mean, we get really beautiful responses from that.
Well, and speaking of beautiful responses, I spent some time on the website before we got together. And at what point did BOVEDA get into cannabis? Because I mean, I didn't realize that until, once again, coming from the music gear place that I do come from, I mean, I knew the cigar part, back from like when I was living in Las Vegas. And then obviously I knew the instrument and guitars and all that, from the NAMM shows. When did the cannabis thing come about?
I I think we were already there. So I'm talking about my colleague and myself. I think it really hit about 8 years ago. It started, and so there were certain states in the U.S. that were legalizing cannabis, and the big thing that came up, because I'm not the regular user, is taste, right? So cannabis, so this thing called the terps. They always say save the terps. Sticky stuff, right? The sticky stuff. So they kind of went like, if that gets too dry, the taste is almost completely gone. Or when it gets too dry, if you use it for medicinal purposes, bugs love to go and live there when it gets dry.
Oh.
So they, what somebody put one and one together, and they went like, could you save the terps?
So is that a different level?
We're like, yeah, sure.
Is that a different level of humidification than instruments on cigars?
So now it went a level further. So we had to rebrand this thing because it kind of started having a life of its own. It's a product called VV now, and if you grow cannabis, again, I'm out of my comfort zone here, but if you grow cannabis, at one point you gotta open the jar all the time and make it burp, right? Otherwise, it goes rotten.
I didn't know that.
Hey, me neither. At the
We're learning things.
yeah. So they call it burping.
Okay.
So Boveda figured out. So you collect your cannabis, you store it, and then you basically put a Boveda pack in there, and you can cure it without burping.
Oh.
So you basically open it up after a period of time, and that thing is good to go.
Once again, it's keeping the stasis level.
Yeah, it's stability.
So they not, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saving the terps.
You're safe in the terps.
Okay, so here's my funny story for you. So once again, living in Las Vegas, and I bought a lot of instruments from pawn shops, because I was doing values for them, and then I would buy them and stuff. And I can't tell you how many times, guy, that I would get it home, and I was like restringing it or whatever, and somebody had put their cannabis, into the guitar strings or something else in the guitar case, and it was all just dried out, crumbly, and all this. And obviously, the guitar needed help as well.
Yeah.
Which I took care of that. But I think it's so funny because you think how many musicians have their cannabis in the guitar cases also.
Oh, a lot. A lot. I mean, that's the funny part. So when we have a booth at NAMM, I know our guys are on the booth. Half the time they're talking about cannabis and cigars. I'm telling you, half the time they're always about that.
It's just so interesting to me because, I did not know until I did a deep dive on your website that was part of it. Like I said, I knew the cigars, I knew all the instruments and guitars. I had no idea that was a whole new area for your company.
Yeah. We're actually quite good on food as well. I mean, yeah. So we're launching a product now that's called Skipper, and that's going to be the crisper drawer of fridges. And after testing, apparently your lettuce lasts for like 10 days longer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, how incredible in these times also when, in the grocery, groceries and everything are more expensive and we're all trying to eat healthier and be healthier. But I mean, to be able to give more longevity in your lettuce and apples and that, the fresh fruit and vegetables, that's a hell of
So new. I mean, I'm talking a couple of months now, so that it's a new little alleyway for us. And
I mean, it seems like with you and JR, guy, that you keep making these innovations with the company, and it's like one of the best kept secrets. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show so that people had a better understanding of what a great product this is and also how it can save your instruments. You know, whether you're traveling, whether you're storing them at home, whether high with the wall.
I mean, at one time, like the guitars I have here, we made a product for like Fender Acoustasonics. So they asked for basically I've got one here, a pack like this with a solid front. We have a product like that because basically if you're gonna get a crack, it's mostly from the inside, right? That's where it starts. So we kind of covered that because a lot of people like that. I'm one of them. I mean, I'm looking at 3 guitars hanging on the wall here.
Right.
So we basically said, okay, if we lock this down here, the inside, at least the inside of your sound hole is humidified, and you got that piece of control. Because people are gonna hang them on the wall. It's just a thing we do, right? But we got a product like that now as well, which is not extremely popular yet because I don't think people know about it. But like for the case, we've got these double tacks. So they go into sound holes. This is a nifty little thing that we introduced as well. So this goes over your strings.
I've seen that one before, to where with the Velcro over the strings, and I thought, what is
in the beginning? That thing just moved in your bag all the time. It wasn't doing what it needed to where we wanted it.
Right.
So we come up with these little, we call them simple ideas, but they're
innovations. As you mentioned with the Fender Acoustasonics, I remembered the ones that I've gotten in for review, and they've all had your product.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, to have a product that is making that much ground. So on the average cost, guy, what, to where musicians want to buy these and put them in with their guitars, their violins, their ukuleles, whatever they're doing, what's the average price?
I mean, the starter kits, depending on the size of your instrument, is gonna go from $19 to $25, but then you're off, right? Then you have your packs, then you have your fabric holders, and then you only have to buy refills, and those refills are price of a coffee,
right?
Starbucks coffee.
Yeah, and your guitar is probably worth more than yes, Starbucks a little more expensive, but my daughter works there too, so what can I say? But I mean,
this will be coffee at Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, I know. I may have one of those after the show. Well, but also it's like you said too, it's an insurance policy. It's really a rather cheap insurance policy for your instrument as a way to take care of it. You know what I was thinking while you were talking, guy, and you were telling all these innovations and things that you're doing with the company, to where I'm like going, at some point it would be cool if you guys came up with your own system to do that with a whole room. So let's say in my guitar room,
oh man, we've broken our heads on pianos and harps.
Oh my gosh, I got a harp right next to me, right here, right? 28 string.
We could do the Irish harp. So I went to this factory in Italy somewhere called Salvi. Beautiful instruments.
Yeah.
So they ship all over the place. That box is just one big mother of a box. We tried and we tried. It's just too much air.
Mm.
We're working on pianos now.
And I could see that as being huge because, once again, and I've just got like a small electric piano here in my guitar room, but a full size piano. I mean, when you're talking about a full size grand or a baby grand, it's like that's a lot of wood.
It is a lot of wood. Luckily for us, they ship it without the legs. So that kind of condenses everything a little bit, and then they put it in bags that they seal up. So there's much more room for us to move there. The harps is just it's this solid thing, right?
Especially the full size, because I've had the harp twins on my Rockin' Review TV show before, and those harps are like taller than you and me.
It's there.
I mean, those are like, like mine is like 3.5 feet, because it's like a 28 string one. They're playing these things that are like 6.5, 7 feet tall.
Neil.
And
We haven't cracked it. In all honesty, we haven't cracked it. We can do the little Irish, the nice ones for Russ. But we haven't cracked the big ones. No.
But it's interesting to me, that you and the team are constantly working to innovate that and figure ways, to be able to humidify those. And there are so many. I mean, just like once again talking about the with the harp, you also have like the upright bass. And obviously we have a lot of the.
Yeah, we just had a discussion. So I went to Shenzhen. I do believe we have a solution.
Interesting. Can you share, or is it double secreted to me?
I think next NAMM you might see it.
So it means I'm gonna have to have you back on the show then.
Gladly.
Well, and the reason I bring that up, Guy, is that talking about upright basses, and certainly a number of bands and musicians. I mean, you've been to the Opry. Every night at the Opry, somebody's playing an upright bass. But unfortunately, I've seen a number of these to where you can tell they've dried out also, whether it be in the neck joint, the headstock, even around the F holes on an upright bass. And I mean, they're big, I mean, a 3/4 upright bass, because I'm thinking about buying one again. I mean, but that's a big instrument. And to be able to humidify that, and especially with these musicians that are touring, a lot of them through Nashville, and I'm sure the world, are touring with a giant piece of wood in a case.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of bluegrass players as well.
Yeah.
And upright bass is a thing, right?
Well, and you're going from like and with talking about bluegrass with the IBMA, which I'm certainly, you guys are huge with them, to where you're going from fiddle and mandolin and guitar to upright bass. So it's like every size.
Yeah, every size. So we found solutions for all of them, and with the upright bass, we always have to, it's a MacGyver approach, right?
So you're saying that it requires a piece of
string, and then you have the string, and then you have two of these things, and you let it dangle in. It's
you stand on your left piece, and it takes a piece of chewing gum. And
exactly. It's an ugly solution. I do believe we found an elegant one, an elegant solution to do this.
So we're gonna have to stay tuned for that. If you don't mind too, Guy, because I mean, you're a musician, you're a prolific published songwriter, and you're in this music gear world. What is some advice that you would give to touring musicians and collectors on using BOVEDA products? I mean, what would be your honest, if you could say something to all of these musicians, what would be the advice?
I mean, the biggest thing that I was so surprised about. So you don't want to put your guitar in cargo. I mean, there's horror stories about that. But putting it on top in that space where you normally put your luggage in there. So the air conditioning in planes doesn't run from the front to the end. It actually goes like this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which means
it's done circular. It's going in spheres on either side.
Correct. Which means that thing above your head will get as dry as about 30%.
And also the altitude.
The altitude is a factor, but the 32% humidity level on top, because it starts there. it can actually damage it.
That makes sense.
I've done mainly violin players I've heard. So they have this thing, they hold it because these things are bloody expensive.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They come out, they open up the case and it just goes crack.
Oh,
And they can hear it. That's what they always say. We can hear it crack.
oh my gosh.
Yep, no good.
So obviously, if musicians are going to be on an airplane and whether it's a hard case or a soft case, you recommend putting in one of the BOVEDA.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's such a severe environment.
I learned something new. I did not realize that being in an airplane would drop the humidity on my instrument down to 30.
Yeah. They do. I mean, funnily enough, because suddenly I go on these tangents with these people in these planes. I'm like, I'm talking to the guy that makes the food in the plane, right?
Right.
So we're talking about humidity, and I tell him about BOVEDA, and then he goes like, you know that spaghetti you ate? I said, yeah. We have to change the recipe of our spaghetti sauce because you as a human are in a dry environment, so your taste buds react differently to the food.
I never would have thought of that. So they're altering it to accommodate a drier atmosphere in the airplane.
Yeah, because otherwise your most of the food that you will get will taste bland.
And so do they find also that if your song is playing in the airplane, that also helps with the flavor? But I guess that's only on certain airlines, right?
Humidifying song.
It might be a whole new niche. I'm just saying.
Yeah, a niche. I'm not sure about it, but it might be a niche. Yes.
So, I mean, you've got all of these products available for cigars, for all of the different instruments. You're innovating with new ones for piano, for upright bass, and in your spare time, you've launched these new products this year for food.
Oh yeah. I bet we didn't. That's a separate team. I mean, I did that. I mean, there's a limit to the amount of hours I have in the day.
And I'm taking up some of it with that interview.
No. That's a completely separate team. We has to. I mean,
How exciting is that? So, besides working on the upright bass and piano, are there any other interesting instrument humidification systems you're currently working on that you can share?
I mean, the piano's a big one because it's definitely in Asia. Still, a lot of people are buying a piano as a key piece of their household.
Mhm.
I mean, violins. Every year I go to Cremona. This is a place in Italy where Stradivarius made his violins, right? And there's a whole bunch of. I mean, it's a village full of violin builders.
That's
And
incredible.
every year I go, and every year there's this massive discussion about, yes, is it safe with my violin? Oh, well, it's safe with your neighbor's violin. I don't know why it wouldn't be safe with yours.
Well, and like you said too, I mean, with the Stradivarius, I can't remember how many examples currently exist still in the world, but I mean, people are still out touring with these instruments.
Oh, 100%. So the thing is, I'm talking to this guy that does insurance of these instruments. So what kind of happens? I wasn't aware how this worked, but so you got a patron buying the instrument. So the instrument is like, I don't know, $2 million, right? And a patron buys it and then lends it to a talented player.
I did not know that,
But then that thing needs to be insured, right?
obviously.
Because it's moving all the time. And that's a business all by itself. And these people are also, considering of putting in the policy. You got to put BOVEDA in your case just to. But that's a niche market, right?
But I was going to bring that up to where it seems like, that would be part of the insurance policy. You to keep the instrument appropriately humidified.
The niche market. It's like I went to auction houses in London where the only thing they store is bows, right? So they have a vault of bows, and my thing is like a bow has very fine wood, so my focus was on that, right? It's like another street in Paris called Rue de Rome, and there's only bow makers there. That's what they do. That's what they do. So I remember going in there, and I'm doing my spiel about humidity and wood, and he goes like, he looks in my face like typical French guy, But the wood is not the problem. It is the hair. And I go like, what do you mean the hair? And he went like, if you take your girlfriend out in the rain, her hair curls up. That's what happens with a bow.
Oh my gosh.
So he says, we need to keep the hair in check. That's why they always wax it, right? We need to keep the hair in check. And that's kind of why people buy it now. I mean, I thought it was the thin lamel of wood. It's right. That's not their focus.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you've dropped the knowledge on me today because I've learned multiple things, because I thought the same thing, because the bows, the wood is so delicate.
Yes.
And it seems like you'd be worried, but that's not it at all.
Well, according to them, no.
Wow. That's amazing. But once again, you've got to have, if you are playing violin or fiddle, you have to have a bow that works. It's like a...
Oh, yeah. Some people even say the bow is the crucial element of your style.
How interesting.
I wouldn't know, but it kind of makes sense.
It does. I mean, because that's what's causing the ringing of the note, as you're, playing over the strings. I'll tell you what, though, it reminds me of seeing Charlie Daniels play multiple times, at the opera and different things, and his bows did not do well. He was a little, like, by the time it was done, it looked like, yeah, he was a little rough on him. But,
Yes.
I
mean, they're precision instruments. If you see the way that they're made, so it's a precision instrument. It's like a scalpel for a surgeon.
Wow. And there's one street and that's all they do.
Oh, Rue de Rome, in Paris. It's off. I think it's Gare Saint-Lazare, which is it's like a station in the middle of town, and then you go out, you go to the right, and there it is.
So what you made me think of also, Guy. So then, has the company been approached for like museums and everything also?
Yeah, every now and then we get that, and then again, it's the 320 packs. Just throw them in there, and
I wonder because thinking about wood and paper, and certainly the board used to, all of these museums, yeah. And so, I mean, if that stuff dries out, everything falls apart.
But they would humidify the whole room, paper and like stamps,
Right.
I mean, some people come up, but there again, we're in niche town here, right?
Yeah, it's not like the ones. I mean, I'm sure you probably, of the categories, are the instruments the biggest category for the company? Oh, really? See, I wouldn't have thought that. There you go. And once again, the cigars started the company. I mean, that was the beginning of it all.
Definitely the core markets are smokables.
Yeah. That's very PC, Guy. But I want to, but also, for people who are joining us on the show, where do you suggest, with all of the products and everything, where do you suggest for purchasing them? Where do you send people?
Oh, that goes wide. I mean, in your favorite outlet, just go there. And of course, they're on Amazon, and Sweetwater ships a lot of their guitars with our stuff as well.
Right.
I mean, every boutique, real boutique guy in the US will have them on stock in some form or way.
I see them everywhere now. Oh, and speaking of which, I got to make mention of my partner, Acoustic Coffee Company, who is partnering with us. So, and if you use the code GearGab, doing your first order, you will save 20% on coffees.
Lovely. Oh, by the way, we'll add to that. We'll make sure that you guys or your listeners have access to large starter kits. I'll just make sure that you get a batch, and we'll get them to your most avid fans.
That sounds great. Well, and I want to make sure also, Guy, that they visit the BOVEDA website, because there was so much information in there, and certainly I enjoyed.
Oh, and we finally have a dedicated one called bovedamusic.com. We've been live for a week.
I was on there. I've been on that website, and that is a robust website.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I learned, but it was also, I told you this before we started the interview. It was so interesting learning about you and your background, and as a songwriter and everything else you've accomplished. But it seems like, you're really in your wheelhouse right now with BOVEDA, with all the great products you're continuing to innovate. And I can't wait to discuss with you more later this year or next year about what they're going to have ongoing for upright basses, pianos, and it seems like you're always working on something fun.
I mean, if I look at my career, I always ended up plugging a new idea.
And I would say a great idea. Yep, ended up getting
Ultimately, yes. But it's just astounding to me how long it takes to get an idea impregnated in people's minds. It's labor intensive, but I seem to like it.
Well, it's like you were telling me too, with all of your travels, constantly explaining two-way humidification.
Yeah.
And still the education level of that for people to understand that, when you are shipping or traveling with a wooden instrument, it wants to be at the level of humidification that it was when it was created.
Correct. Yep.
That's a heck of a learning curve.
That is it's a simple pitch. In all honesty, you can do it in 5 minutes. But yeah, somebody needs to put the light on. That's
it's simple, but then once again, how many friends do you and I both have that have had damaged instruments because they didn't do it?
Yeah, and
they'll stay $900.
They remember the bill they got to repair it.
Right. Yeah. Everybody remembers that, or also not being able to play a show or a songwriter round because your instrument is currently being repaired because of too much humidity or too little humidity.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'll tell you, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Guy, and sharing all of your knowledge, at least part of it. I think you're going to have to come back on. I think there's more to share. And maybe we got to find out about your next song releases also. I'm going to bug you for that before I have you back on.
Oh, no, we got one with, I got one with Jessica coming out probably at the end of the year. We're working on it now. And then there's a musical type thing that I've been asked to work on, which is I've been wanting to do musical for such a long time.
That's incredible. And it made sense, especially.
I hope it works. People are scaring me because they go like, yeah, if you're doing a musical, that's 10 years of your life are gone. And I'm like, oh, I hope that's not the truth. But
I think you can, I believe that you can fit it in.
Yeah. Well,
in between.
Figure it out. But that's the thing that kind of gets me buzzed for the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you are doing a great job with everything with BOVEDA. Guy Balbaert, thank you so much for coming on the show. Go to the website. And thanks. It should be fun. I want to make sure for people who are checking out the show, subscribe on the YouTube channel or listen to it across all major podcast platforms. Gear Gab Podcast is there. And be sure and go to the new BOVEDA Music website. And it's a very fun website. And if you get a chance and you're at a NAMM show or a music show, make sure to find Guy Balbaert and talk with him and talk about songs and maybe humidification, right?
Perfect. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining the Gear Gab podcast with Eric Dahl. Subscribe to our weekly conversations on your favorite platform. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Gear Gab Podcast. You'll never know who our next guest will be.